Over the years, I've had to kind of add key pieces to my leadership team that are more the analyticals, right? So I can be the big vision and the believer and the culture, and it's worked out well for me. I think that anybody who is out there listening and contemplating whether or not they want to start their bit, do it. You can always go work for someone else, right? Like you can always go work for someone else.
Welcome to the podcast, Zach. I'm honored to have you on and be in your home city, New York. Thanks for being here. I know you had quite the journey because it's like 90 degrees outside.
Yeah, I went back to my roots. I tried. The subway is always quicker, without a doubt. I'm just stubborn and I take Uber way too much. But I decided today I was going to take the subway and it backfired on me. So I'm apologizing for being late.
No, I've been taking Uber has been backfiring me this whole week here.
Yeah.
I'm faster on my feet.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm honored to be sitting with you because you do it all, truly. And I discovered you from everything you're doing with release recovery. And
Yep.
I think it's just so profound. And anyone who's living a life of service and purpose, I want to have them on the show. So
Thank you.
I'm honored to have you on and would love to start there with, your journey. Could you take us back down memory lane on who is Zach?
Who is Zach? That's a great question. I don't know if I've had it asked that directly. I mean, at my core, I'm a 40-year-old guy that's sober 13 years and just appreciates every day that I get to be on this planet. And I'm a kid who grew up in South Jersey, right outside of Philly, and had two beautiful parents that instilled a lot of good in me, but I still found my way into some bullshit in my teens and 20s, which I had to kind of pull myself out of. And it's crazy because I turned 40 back in January, which now I guess is 7 months ago. And I was reflecting on, I've been in this city now, New York, for almost 13 years. It's wild and had a lot of fun. So,
will you ever leave New York?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I thought you were going to say no.
Oh, absolutely. I had a different experience with COVID here. I actually appreciated some of the space and the less people here. I feel like now in 2024, this city is more on fire than it's ever been. And when you're here for 30, I'm not doing the restaurants and I'm not doing the New York thing anymore. I go to work, I work out, and I just I try to chill. So for me, there's not the convenience of being in New York is why I am still here, because you can get out of the city and get to where you need to go. But other than that, I could give a shit about getting the reservation, doing the thing,
Was that a big part of the lifestyle?
Of course. Yeah. You first come to New York. And for me, I came here and I was newly sober. And so I was trying to find my way, and you start to care about what you look like, and you get into a little bit of the fashion and the food, and I still love all that stuff, right? I'm down for a good meal. But it's changed. My perspective has changed.
I love that. Well, we're going to dive into that a little bit later because
Cool.
I want to go all into your wellness and your routines and how you find that balance with everything you're doing. But, with everything you built with Release Recovery and Release Recovery Foundation, how did that start? What was the catalyst that started that whole business and pursuit that you're on today?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about it recently because I had a little press blitz because I threw out the first pitch down in Philly.
Wow.
And the Inquirer down there did a little article on me, which was really cool. And it's fascinating because anytime I sit down for an interview with a writer, they really latch and dig their teeth into the foundation because it's an easy story to tell, right? It feels good. We're doing a lot of good in the world. We're giving back to the substance abuse and mental health community. But, I appreciate you flagging kind of the for-profit, which is Release Recovery, which came years before the nonprofit. Yeah. So I basically moved to New York when I got sober. I worked for someone else for 5 years and then decided to go out on my own. I was working here in the city and then bought a house up in Westchester County, which is 40 minutes, north of the city. Hung a shingle up there, built a 15-bed men's program, and then slowly integrated back to the city. So Release Recovery now, we have 34
Wow.
residential beds up in Yorktown. So we have 2 properties that we own up there, and then we have a treatment program. So we have a partial hospitalization and an intensive outpatient program. So we have a big operation up there. And then here, we were just catching up before, we have another 30 beds and our kind of our flagship office. So 64 beds in total. We have like 80 employees now. I mean, it's crazy. Like literally we hung a shingle and here we are, 7 years later. It's been a wild ride.
7 years in the
Yeah.
making. When you were about to start this whole thing, in your head, like at that time, was there any limiting beliefs holding you back? Because I think a lot of people listening, it could be a different type of business, right? Everyone has this like, and I believe everyone has it. They have this like passion that they want to pursue, this inner whisper inside that's like, you should do this, go after it. But then sometimes it's not logical to other people whose opinions matter, or they get in their own way of like giving themselves permission to execute. So I can only imagine going down something, because no one's doing this. So there's no one like that you were like, they're
Yeah.
successful at it. So what was that like?
You ever heard paralysis by analysis,
Mhm.
right? So like that's something my dad always talked about. And like for me, I never doubted it. I just never had that I am someone that refuses to believe like you could say no to me.
I love this.
You
Yeah.
could say no to me. I'm like, okay, when are we doing it? Like it's just that's just for me. I just
Yeah.
refuse to believe the answer is going to be no. And I believe in business, people spend way too much time like with the performers and the analysis and what can go wrong. Like what could go right?
I love that mindset.
So I've been blessed with that. And then like, over the years, I've had to kind of add key pieces to my leadership team that are more the analyticals, right? Like because so I can be the big vision and the believer and the culture. And it's worked out well for me. I think that anybody who is out there listening and contemplating whether or not they want to start their bit, do it. You can always go work for someone else, right? Like you can always go work for someone else.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like life is too short not to do it.
It's so good, and it's such a blessing that you're wired like that. And I think someone listening could also be like, damn, I wish I was like that.
Yeah.
Because I do believe, like, we're both good friends with Michael Chernow, and he always
Love
says, like, are
Michael.
you born or made?
Yeah.
And I know that's what he was doing when the podcast before it rebranded. And I do believe that, like, it takes a type of person to go down the path of entrepreneurship, because you do have to have that fearless mentality of, like, okay, every day could be a chaos. Like I always say, every day is a new adventure, but you got to be ready to show up, and you have to strengthen that mindset daily. So if you weren't like this, what advice maybe would you say to someone to start strengthening it? I think taking action is like a big thing.
The thing I think about, I mean, like maybe this is just the way that I think about it. So when you ask me, right, like what was your limiting belief, or what would you tell someone who's on the fence about taking that next step forward in terms of starting their own business? I believe if you have that, you probably have it. What I have learned in business is there have been too many times where I have wanted something for someone that works for me or a colleague or a partner that they don't actually want for themselves, right? Like some people are very satisfied in their role, kind of doing the 9-to-5 thing, and that's the life they want. I had a hard time wrapping my head around that because I just assumed everyone wanted to like
work for themselves.
Yeah, be a crazy person like me.
Design, yeah.
Right. So I think if it comes up for you, there's probably something to look at.
I love that.
And if it doesn't, like
it's also okay not to. Yeah. I think sometimes like when we live in these big cities like LA, like in New York, everyone's like creating their own product and business. But I don't think that it's always like there's different ways of being like, as long as you're happy at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah. I could write a book on this shit. I mean, I've learned so much in the last 12 years. I mean, like I actually love meeting like young guys and girls starting out because even that whole, like, the cheesy shit you hear, like, find people to collaborate with rather than compete, like, that's real. Like, if you're
Mhm.
in that competitive mindset, I don't think that's gonna serve you.
I also believe in the abundance mindset. Like,
Yep.
abundance breeds more abundance. Like, whenever I go into I work in PR, so I do so many meetings. Like, I meet with every brand, every talent. I was saying to Wolf when I came in, like, I've been doing so many, like, new talent meetings just to let them pick my brain on, like, business and help them out. Like, I just think that when you approach everything from, like, how can you add value, it comes back so much.
Mhm.
When you approach your business from that landscape, like, so much comes back.
Talent management thing's crazy. I don't know how you do that shit. I mean,
I don't know either. Sometimes every day. I'm telling you, every day is a new adventure, but I sound cheesy or like a broken record on like my solo episodes because it's all the mindset. If I don't like fill my own cup first,
yeah.
it doesn't work.
Yeah, it takes a special. I think like that, sales, like there's certain occupations that I look at and I've been on the other side of it. Like I know
Yeah,
what
I
these man and like, I've had a couple man and like, they're all it's like I don't know, it's fascinating. And the LA thing I've never understood that shit. Like I don't get LA.
maybe but have you ever been there for work? Have
I
you ever
try not to.
Well, it's what do you not like about it?
Uh I'm 3 hours behind everyone that
Yeah,
I love.
I feel that though. When I wake up, I'm
Everyone I
like
care about on this
crazy.
planet is like not in the same time zone, and I don't know. I think this like the and maybe this is gonna sound however it's gonna sound, but like growing up, going to like Philly sporting events and
Yeah.
being partying in Philly and coming up there, and then living in New York, like that's a dangerous cocktail, and like I think I just crave that kind of like Northeast.
I love that. I also believe that like it's a different vibe, especially for me going back and forth. I thrive here in New
Hmm.
York and I like meet people and I just feel like we're on the same page. It's just like this understanding. And I definitely can see the differences. Like you definitely where you are, like your vibe attracts your tribe. And I think that, yeah, the coasts are definitely different like types of people,
Yeah.
depending on the lifestyle.
I mean, I love a lot of people that are in LA and love LA, but I don't know. But my like I say that my relationship with New York is probably not healthy. Like the way that my life is set up, like if I am in this city, I immediately associate it with I'm working, I'm grinding. It's 12 to 14 hour days. Like
Yeah.
gotta be up at 5:30 and get the workout in and do the thing. And so like that's
Mhm.
why it's so important for me to kind of get out. It's amazing. Anytime I go over the bridge or through the tunnel, like the mind just like clearing as you're leaving the city. It's a powerful
Mm.
thing.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna go there now, but would love to hear like how you do like what are your mindful practices now, especially like being such a leader in this space of like mental health. How do you make sure that you're always nurturing your own mental health and well-being at this stage in your life?
Well, most leaders struggle with the shit they're so, leaders of. They've probably
Mm,
had the struggle, and that's definitely my story. I mean, like for me, currently, what I'm working on is the phone. I mean, the phone is
boundaries with it.
the phone is a deadly place, man. It just is so. Look, for me, on a good day, I will say this: I wake up, I have a half hour in the morning where I'm getting the hydration going, so I'm drinking
Yeah.
water. I'm not looking at the phone right away. I'm taking time to look inward. I'm meditating, saying some
Mm,
prayers, and then slowly like start to like get into the day. Really good day. I'm getting my workout done like first thing.
which is what kind of workout do you like?
So I just finished I'm a runner. I just finished a marathon block, so I'm actually trying to lift some weights right now because my body's
Mm,
just wrecked, but when I'm in a marathon cycle, like I will get up and I will go for an 8 to 10, 12
wow.
mile run, like in the morning and try to knock that out. I also feel like for me, it's a great mental health tool, right? Like movement and clearing the
Mm.
mind and the dopamine rush. Like my most productive days occur after I've worked out in the morning.
When you run, do you listen to anything like
Music. I'm not gonna
what kind of
bullshit you. Like
music?
it's music on the loudest possible
Yeah.
volume, and my playlist would probably expose me. I mean, like I have,
Me
it's
too.
everything from like Meek Mill to like Elton John,
I
like it's just,
love
yeah,
this.
I'm like all over the place and I like, it's just,
It's therapy though.
yeah,
It's
it's great.
truly.
It's the best.
No, I love that. I think that's so important. Like anyone who exists, I feel like everyone needs like a physical well-being, like a wellness routine and habit stack.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, like, look, I've worked in behavioral healthcare now for almost 13 years, and we talk about this all the time. Right? Like any rehab you go to in America,
Mhm.
the most popular place is the Butt Hut, which is the place where all the patients go smoke cigarettes. Which for me is heartbreaking,
Mm.
right? Because you're in this program, you're trying to better your life, you're trying to get healthy, and here they're like promoting this kind of social gathering around the one thing that's probably going to kill you quicker than anything else, which is
Mhm.
cigarettes. And so it's something I've talked to Michael about Chernow is like, how do we incorporate the plunge, the diet, the movement, the sauna, the contrast therapy, like all the kind of biohacks that
And
are
it
starting
truly
to get,
works.
yeah.
Like makes you feel
I
so
hope
different
it works.
that
I
you
mean,
don't want to do
I
anything.
hope it works. I don't think we fully know, but I hope it works. All
Have
this
you guys
bio,
introduced those protocols into like how
we're
you're helping
starting to.
people?
We're starting to. So that was my point though. Like, how do you mold that with like the really good psychiatry and the therapy? And if you bring those
Mm,
together, then you're really talking about like the holistic approach, right?
yeah,
But a lot of these treatment programs, you'll go away
they
and
don't have that.
they'll give you a pack of cigarettes, a pint of ice cream, and just say stay sober and everything will work out. So
Mm, that's crazy. You're gonna be, because you guys are the first doing that. You guys are gonna be a really solid case study for hopefully some real change in
yeah.
other areas.
No, I mean, look, I was at the 100-year gala for the American Heart
Mm,
Association like 3 weeks ago. And the guy speaking basically said, 100 years ago, when you had heart disease, it was a death sentence,
mm,
right? Like, and in a lot of ways today, and look at where we are today, right? Like, you
yeah,
have heart disease, like you're most likely going to live, right?
yeah.
Like, they're so well advanced in the treatment. I feel that way with the brain and with addiction and substance. Like, if you have this thing, there's a pretty good chance you're going to die from it. If you don't get sober.
Mm,
Alcoholism and or drug addiction. I mean, it's a killer. And
mhm.
so my hope, right, is that I'll be long gone, but 100 years ago, there's some gala, maybe the Release Foundation gala,
Yes,
and
your
there is someone
gala.
standing up there saying, 100 years ago, if you were given this diagnosis, it wasn't pretty, but now we have made these advances.
And truly, that's gonna happen.
Hopefully.
No, I
I
believe
don't
that.
know. I mean, it's the emotions behind I don't know, have you spent a lot of time with people? Like, are you familiar? Has it touched you personally or
Not personally, but living in LA and like being in in Malibu, there is a lot of
yeah. Oh,
rehabilitation
yeah. Oh,
centers, and a
yeah.
lot of
That's the
my
capital of the world right there.
yeah, and a lot of my friends have had partners who are like, especially being in the talent space,
Mhm.
the celebrity influencers. I've been more recently growing up in outside Toronto. No. And then when I moved to LA and I'm around people who on the surface look like they have everything and they have, all the money in the world, they have like on Instagram like the perfect relationship. Those are the ones that I've seen behind the scenes like really struggling and then
Yeah.
go to these rehabilitation places and centers in Malibu, and I have learned, it's opened my eyes to a lot of things, and it's really sad because it's, at least what I've been exposed to, it's always the ones who never think.
Yeah.
And I've seen this like commonality of like what types of people it happens to. And yeah, it's really sad because so far, so like some of the events that I've been to, it's everyone gathering and the founder of it saying like there's no solution still. Like we need to
Yeah.
keep going. And then the stories as well that I've heard from people who've lost brothers and sisters, it's not their
Yeah.
fault. Like the person.
I mean, there's a solution. People just don't always like what the solution is. I mean, it's community,
Mm,
it's humility, it's surrender, it's acceptance, it's like I always say with my story, like I was 27 years old, strung
Yeah.
out on heroin, living on a cardboard box, not by choice, but not because I had to be, but by choice, because I just figured my family didn't want to see me. And it wasn't a doctor or a
Mm,
therapist or a friend that saved my life. It was a bank teller, right? Like she knew that I was trying to cash this check and because I was hanging out in Camden, New Jersey, where she probably saw a lot
yeah.
of people like me coming through. And instead of calling the police, she called my dad.
Wow.
And that's what I always talk about in my story because, you know, that doesn't happen with cancer.
Mm-mm.
Like that moment doesn't happen with cancer or heart disease or diabetes. Like it's that human connection. It's that unbelievable level of kindness that she displayed in that moment, and she saved my life. And this is the only
Mm.
disease or illness, however you wanna call it, in the world where, I don't know, it doesn't take a doctor. Sometimes it just takes an
Mm.
act of God or a moment of clarity to set you off in the other direction.
It's so profound too that it can just take one person
Yeah.
to kind of spark that change to completely change your life. Like with Michael, I we always like talk about it, and he was just on Rich Roll, and like when
Mhm.
he was telling us all about like the interview and everything, it's just wild. Like working with him so closely, he always talks about that moment. And it's crazy because if you would have like commit suicide and like given up, like the life that is lived now wouldn't have existed, and the amount of people that you're touching, right? And he's touching through your brands and what you're creating in the world with your businesses and your movements and everything wouldn't be here. It's so like it's wild to me to even think like how many people we lose because they don't get that chance.
Yeah. No, I think the life, the thing I think about a lot is growing up, I was terrified of death.
Mhm.
And this life that I live today, like it's forced me to contemplate it all, death, living, and everything in
Mm.
between. Because when I signed up to help people, when I signed up to be of service, when I
Yeah.
signed up to say, this is going to be my life, I had to prepare myself for a lot of funerals and a
Mm.
lot of, weddings and celebrations. There's no real in between
Yeah.
in mental health and substance use disorder. So, it's really kept me sharp and kept me focused on the most important thing, which is for me, and I scream this from the mountaintops, is my recovery. Like, I love my family, I love my job, I love my work, I love my relationships, but, like, the first thing, and they say it all the time, the first thing I put ahead of my recovery, me, Zach, my wellness,
Mm.
I'm gonna lose that shit and everything else.
Mm. I love that.
Yeah.
Like how and you're like someone who uses your story to share it with the world, and hopefully and you do, and spark change in others and create a movement
Try.
and create so much. No, you are. And I think that that takes a lot of courage. They say that quote like vulnerability is your power. And I'm sure you come across so many people who are struggling silently and like finally open up, or maybe there's people listening who are just they have men who maybe have too much ego to like say that they're struggling, or like women. And in your experience from being someone who's like leading by example and leading with that vulnerability, have you seen you leading by example inspire other people to open up and break down? Is that what's like keeping you?
Yeah. So the question is like, why do I keep doing it? Is that
Yeah, and almost like with being so vulnerable and like being open to share your story, are you seeing the effects of that tenfold in other people having the courage to speak up?
Yeah, I mean, like, the real talk is like walking today to this interview in my head. I'm like, who the fuck cares about my story? Because you tell it so much, like
Mm,
it starts to wear on you. And then you have the moment,
yeah.
you get the DM, you get the phone call, you have the text message because, as human beings, like, I don't think we come out of the womb built to just talk about ourselves so much and share so much of our stories. But I've, obviously chosen that path and I'm comfortable with it at this point. Um, but it just never gets old. Like watching someone get this thing, Like, I hope for you and at one point in your life, as sad as it or as scary as it'll be, to watch someone who's, like, entering into rehab or in their darkest moment and to watch them, like, leave the darkness and come into the light and blossom into this, like, incredible human being that you know they can be.
Mhm.
There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it watching someone recover, and, I think for me, it's a fascinating world we live in, social media as, wild as it is. It's funny, like, I look at some of these posts, I'll put something out there, and the views will be way up and the shares will be way up,
Yeah.
but the comments and the likes will be down. So I'm like, people are watching this shit. People
Interesting.
are sending this shit around, but they don't want anyone to know. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want anyone to know.
Yeah.
Like that's what my mind
That
tells.
is crazy.
That's what that shit'll tell me. And I'm like, I almost believe
Wow.
that there's like people that kind of just like and then one day they muster up the courage to put their hand up and ask for help. I mean, sometimes it takes years.
Wow.
Sometimes it takes years. So,
What advice would you have for someone who is trying to find the courage to speak up? Or like, is
well,
there a way to
I
lean
tr
into it and like,
yeah, I mean, look,
or is it just like a when you're ready, you can't
there's a
force
lot
it?
of different degrees of this thing,
Yeah.
right? And I think what scares people away from asking for help is they feel like once they ask for help, they're committing to never drinking again and never doing drugs again and being in therapy and not seeing old friends and all that shit. And I think that's a huge misconception about this.
Mhm.
Like, for me, if I have someone who's on the fence, I say, try to not drink for a week. Try to not drink for 2 weeks. And if they can do it, then I'm like, all right, well, maybe you don't have this thing. But a lot of times, if you tell someone to do that and on night 3, they're drinking and whacking them back again, I'm like, dude, if you don't have a problem with alcohol, right? If you really don't, and that's what you're telling me, why can't you not drink for a week?
Mm.
Why can't you not drink for 2 weeks? And they'll give some bullshit answer, and then typically they come back around in 6 months, I was on the phone with someone this week, like, it's clockwork. Every 6 months, I get this phone call.
Wow.
"I'm ready, da 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 da, another weekend of this and that." And I'm like, "Alright, man, like, what do you wanna do?"
Yeah.
But then when I make the suggestion, like, "Why don't you try rehab? Why don't you try therapy? Why don't you go to an AA meeting?" Like, whatever the things
Mhm.
are. "No, man, I think I'm just gonna get in shape again." "Alright, I'll talk to you in 6 months." Like,
Mm.
so I think this is something you can try before you buy. I've never talked to someone that's gotten sober. I've never talked to someone that's gotten sober and said, "This is terrible." I mean,
Their life changes for the better, and they live a life
yeah.
of their wildest dreams. Do you know Gabrielle Bernstein? Are you familiar with her?
Remind me?
She's got a best-selling author, New Yorker through and through, podcast.
Uh-huh. Okay.
She was struggling with addiction. She changed her whole life.
Mhm.
Like, and she always talks about the moment when she was like in her like West Village apartment and she was on the floor and was like, there has to be another way. And her whole journey and like whole brand that she's built is all on like she believes in like she's all about the law of the universe and spirit and relying on a higher power.
Yep.
And it's guided her on this whole path of it's really beautiful of like prayer and surrender. And then her life is she always says she's living a life beyond her wildest dreams. And it was all because of like she went to her first like AA meeting and her whole life changed.
Yeah, I
And
think for me, like, the thing with that, because I can get out there with that shit for real,
mhm.
and, like, the thing I came to understand, because everyone's like, "Do you believe in God? Da, 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 da,
Yeah,
da,
because I know
da, da."
Michael's huge on faith too, and like
Yeah.
that's what got him.
I think the bigger revelation for me is, like, I do actually believe in God today, but I think the bigger realization for me is, like, I'm not God. Like, I
Mm,
don't have power over any of this shit, and like, the drugs and the alcohol for me in my life is what took me to my knees.
yeah.
and allowed me to see like I am okay, holy shit. Like I've done some cool things in my life. I was a pretty good athlete, pretty good student, you know, could date a pretty girl, like whatever it was.
Mhm.
But this thing right here, like I'm not gonna be able to think my way out of it. And I think every one of us as human beings have that one thing, that one moment where like believe in God or not, like what we all can agree on is that we're not God. Like I don't have that much power,
Yeah.
you know?
It's so true. It's so true. I want to talk a little bit about, your personal brand and
Mhm.
like everything you're doing, continuing to like use your story
Yeah.
and go more into that. But, on the topic of personal brand and becoming a true thought leader in this space, a lot of people might know you from like time on TV,
Yeah.
but you've leveraged that and
Yeah.
created this whole legacy that you're
Yeah.
building. And I think to do that is like a huge feat in itself.
Yeah.
So even relating it to, you know, shifting your platform into being this voice of recovery, like with your content strategy today, how would you say you approach it and almost like tips for
Yeah.
not like a rebrand, but like even coming out of a certain phase of your life that's not serving you to go into a new one, it's a rebrand
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. I mean, like real talk, I think, and I've been thinking about this and sharing more about it. And I love the question because I feel like it allows me to really think about, like, for me, whether I was going on The Bachelorette or whether I'm on Instagram or whether I'm sitting here talking to you on this
Yeah.
podcast or I'm catching up with Wolf, who's producing right now, like, what, like, I want to, my goal is to be true to myself. My goal is to
Mm,
be, you know, real and authentic and walk away from that conversation saying, like, they can like me or not like me, but at least I'm gonna let them make the decision. I'm not gonna try and be someone that I'm not to try and
yeah.
influence them one way or another. And I think that has served me well. Now we all get into moments. I would be completely full of shit if I sat here and said like, when the camera's going, sometime there isn't like a little bit more, whatever it is. But for the most part, I try to just be myself, and like I try to sit in this chair and act like we're just having a conversation. And so, I think it's a wild thing going on reality television.
Mm,
There's not a playbook. There is no education. You don't come off and say like someone grabs you and says like, "Hey, these are how brands are going to want to work with you. This is a manager, this is an agent." Like I'm walking blind through all that shit and like
mhm.
people are hitting me up and I kind of like paused it all. Like I kind of just like, like I was like I have to figure this out before I really go into it. And I think one of the decisions that I made in terms of my personal brand was I want to work with other brands that understand me because
Mhm.
I'm not going to be for everyone, like I'm not going to be the guy taking my shirt off on the beach, like holding up the
Mhm.
can of whatever it is and like pushing product.
Yeah.
But I will represent you. I will be a true partner. We will get events and community and people together. And that served me really well, like trying to do real long term, partnerships with brands that are aligned with me. And I've gotten into a really healthy place over the last 12 to 18
Mm,
months where I'm just like, it's that abundance thing. Like these things are going to either come to me or not on the personal brand. Like I don't have the podcast, right? Like, which we just started. Like, I don't have an end game there. I'm not doing that to make a ton of money. If it comes, great. If it doesn't, that's cool too. Like,
mhm.
uh, the number one brand I need to worry about is release recovery because
Yeah.
one, that's paying my bills, and two,
Yeah.
um, I need to like make payroll and make money and be profitable so that like we can
Mhm.
continue to grow and help people. So I don't know. It was a long-winded answer. I think for me, like, if I give advice to people, like, if I like, people call me and they're like, "I'm going on this television show," or like,
Yeah.
there's always like the friend of a friend. "Would you talk to this person? They're going on The Bachelorette, or they're going on like, would you talk to
Yeah.
them before they go?" And the thing I tell those people every time is like, "Dude, that camera's gonna go on.
Mhm.
Be yourself. Be yourself. You wanna be at your couch 6 months later watching the television saying, "No matter what happens, that's you. That's me."
Mm.
Because the people I think that get in trouble, and this is more the psychology behind it, are the ones that, you know, go on TV or pull out their phones or try to do things that are not real or authentic to them, and people know.
I also think there's no longevity and scale in that because you can't put on that facade forever.
Right.
And then when you build this brand that's like not your personal brand, how are you going to continue to
Yeah.
move in that direction?
Yeah. It's scary, and it's like
But I also, yeah, on the other side of it, like I I can see how someone can go down that rabbit hole because they're getting the metrics of it, like the
yeah.
dopamine of like, oh, but I was on that show and I got this influx because in LA a lot of people will, I know a lot of friends even personally, they'll go on like audition and try to get through and like they think their life's gonna change. And that's like the goal to get on because then after you have all this like surplus of audience and then they're like, then I'm gonna get the brand deals, get all the opportunities, and then my life's made.
It's not that sweet.
Yeah.
It ain't that sweet. I take it from me.
But
Trust
also
me.
too, it's like if you go on that show and you are not a representation of who you are, and then you get home and then
Yeah.
you start posting about shit you care about
Yeah.
and like mental health and like like great things that maybe that audience doesn't even care about.
Yeah. No, it's been cool for me. Like I know like for me, like I've lost followers
I
that
feel
are
like
probably
you're
that are like naturally like fans of Bachelor, and I'm not posting about that shit, but I've gained real meaningful champions
yeah.
of release and the brand and me and recovery and mental health and all the things that I care about, which is beautiful.
And I also think like looking at it from like the abundance lens, you probably started from like a base of like whatever the hundreds of thousands of people, even if you lost some, you still gained so much.
Yeah.
Because there's
Oh
so many
yeah.
people
That
in that
shit's
community who's like, we love this.
it's so whack. I mean, the whole social. I mean, like, I don't know where it all ends, but there should be mental health supports baked
I
into all
agree.
those apps because it's like it's not. I mean, just like for these kids, right? Like thinking about being a 12-year-old on my phone scrolling and like
Yeah.
he's got the nicer baseball bat. He's got the, he's bigger than me. He's got the
Mhm.
nicer hat. Like you just start to compare out. And I had the Nokia like T9 in like college, like that shit was
You
so
didn't
much
have the
easier.
camera on it. It's like, yeah,
No.
it's crazy. And everything's so real
Thank God there was
time.
no cameras when I was, oof, I wouldn't be here, that's for sure.
Well, on the note of like content and apps and platforms, you started your podcast,
Yes.
The Zac Clark Show. Recent. How long ago did you launch it? Listen to every episode.
You're the best. I feel like we're like 10, 11, 12 episodes in. So if we did one a week, maybe like 3 months. Like, look, here's the deal with that. I had gotten some like pressure over the years from friends and folks and followers and supporters. Like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And it's just like anything else. Like, I wanted to have purpose. I wanted to have meaning. I'm not going to like come out of the gate trying to get like all these like, celebrity guests. Like, we're just going to try and have some real
You have real people.
Yeah, real people.
Everyone you have on, I haven't heard of. Like, I love the one with your sister.
Yeah.
I think that was my favorite
Thank
one
you.
out of all of them so far. And it speaks volumes of the person who's hosting it, yourself, but then the conversations you're having are so real that they're so captivating.
Thank you. The thing that I'm most upset about is the name. Like, when you like these, there's no names left. Like,
No, but
I'm sitting there. I'm like, what the fuck do you name a podcast
No, it's
these
great.
days? Like, it's just
It's great because working in my space, there's a lot of talent who will name it something and then they get a lawsuit later because they didn't trademark properly, or like someone who has the name similar, they'll come after you and you're continuing to blow up. So it's your name.
okay.
I
That
think
makes me feel
you
better.
did a great job.
Thank you.
Trust me, offline, I'll tell
believe
you,
you.
like people are having to change it to their name.
Okay.
Could never go wrong with using your name.
Yeah, it just feels a little I don't know. It's my own shit. Maybe it's fine. No, but it's been good. We've had some cool conversations. And again, it's just like it's that what is your why? Like, what is your North Star? What are you driving towards? And for me, it truly is helping the next person, making this thing available to those who seek it. And like, there's days when I wake up and I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do the work. I don't want to help people. I
Mm,
don't like it. Like, that's just a reality of life in anything that we do.
yeah.
But then there are days when I wake up and I say, like, we're going to have this conversation or we're going to do this thing. And I know that by putting this out there, someone is going to change their life.
And you never know, too, what episode it will be for someone to hit.
Mhm.
Because everyone has such a different story. And that's the reason why I love the podcast medium is because, like, you can go in for, like, an hour and they're locked in.
Yeah.
So I think that medium is, like, the perfect medium for what you're doing to reach more people
Yeah.
and have the platform to do so.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, like, like people are trying to fit like a 30-second reel. I'm like,
Oh.
I already overtalk. Like, my message is not going to get through in 30 seconds. I don't, it's just not.
The editing post-production is hard because then you have to choose the bites and then fit it in 50. Shorter the better, too. I've learned that. I've seen, like, 15-second reels. They do so much better, but it's like, how? It's an intention game out here.
It's nuts. It's nuts. I don't know how you do it.
You do it. You're living proof by example. But one of the things that
I can hide though. Like, you got to be out there working with talent, working with brands, showing up to the events, smiling.
I wanted to go
happy.
there with you, the events, because I
Yeah.
do believe that events play such a role in building community.
Yeah.
Because, like, I believe that, you know, when you have a brand, what creates a brand is, like, building a movement, and a movement is from a community where people can feel a part of it.
Yeah.
And I'm very pro, like, IRL, bringing people together. And you guys are doing that.
We're doing it.
So can you share a little bit about, like, how you guys are doing that and what you guys, because especially in New York, because I know you guys have stuff going on.
Yeah,
here.
we do. We have some good, like, so every Monday night we have a run club, which is all inclusive and open to anyone who wants to come and hang out
Yeah.
with us in our community, which is super welcoming. And the people that come typically stay. We have a gala every year in May, which like kicks ass. We do it at Tao downtown. And the purpose of that event is really like, we purposely serve alcohol. We purposely bring people together that, you know, some are sober, some are not, because for someone who's sober, like, we need to see that we can still go out and have those experiences and have fun and walk through nights like that, dance and like do the thing and wake up the next morning and be like, oh, I didn't actually have to drink, you know? So events like for me that are mine and I know people that are going to be there are fine. I don't know how to say it. Like, I get like I don't know what's changed in me, and maybe I don't know, but like I just get social anxiety going to events where I don't know people and I'm like expected to walk in the room, and you know, maybe that's just this whole, like, I don't take myself too seriously, but like you walk into these events, you walk into these rooms and have to explain kind of like who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I struggle with that stuff.
And you know what? I don't think it has to be for everyone. I think that, like, I always, in my space, because it's all events, it's so funny. I'm laughing because yesterday I went to an event that was that. It was 70 entrepreneurs, and it was like, I didn't know it would be like that, but they would tap you on the shoulder and you'd move to the next person, and it was exact. And I laugh because so I was sitting at the table. I was like, this is an introvert's worst nightmare because you can't leave. Like, I thrive in those environments.
I can
them.
tell you're like, I
but-
came in, you're like all happy and oh.
But trust me, I like to. I need to introvert in my own ways. Like in the morning,
Yeah.
especially in New York, I love it because people here don't give a shit about you.
No.
Like, they just, everyone's in their own world.
No, this city's safe. This city's safe. You
It's
can
the
be
best.
anyone here that you want to be, and you can hide, you can be out and about. I mean, that's the thing that I think people confuse about New York, and what I love and appreciate about it is, like, if I want to go out and party till 4 a.m., I can do that. If I want to sit on my ass and eat Haagen-Dazs and go to bed at 9:30, like, I can do that too, and no one's going to care.
You have permission. Well, you always have permission to do whatever you want, but it's easier here in an
Yeah.
environment that is just like, it's like what I feel.
Yeah.
It's freeing. I love it.
Yeah.
What are you excited about with what's coming? You're doing a lot of things. You have the podcast,
Yeah.
you have two sides of Release Recovery Foundation and then Release Recovery, the for-profit business. Like, what is in the pipeline? I know you're like working away at your headquarters. Like,
I love, like, look, like the truth is like investing, entrepreneurship, nonprofit work, my own personal brand, the podcast, like I love it all. You know, I
yeah.
love it all. I think I work with a business coach. And so like every week we are, you know, we talk about like being ruthless with our time and like learning to say no and like only travel when mandatory, you know, so we're trying to work towards a more refined and defined schedule. So that's like what I'm currently working on, right? And it's been really incredible to, you know, have meetings that I say, hey, I think this person within the organization is better for you to talk to than me, right? That's been really humbling. You know, for me, from a business perspective, we're trying to acquire this company right now that should go through in the next like 7 to 10 days, which is it's a men's mental health company. So
Wow.
they focus on men's mental health on college campuses. It's a software, and if that goes through, which fingers crossed it will, that's going to add a whole nother layer to the services that Release provides. It's going to add a whole nother layer of community. I'm going to have to be spending more time on college campuses, kind of connecting to the men and doing some more public speaking. So I'm super excited about that.
That's really cool. Does public speaking light you up?
Yeah, I love it.
Live. Yeah.
The thing I love about public speaking, and this goes into all the other stuff that you're talking about, and I'm sure you have talent that like love different things. The thing I love about public speaking is this, like, they don't want you to post about it. They don't care who you are. Like the universities, like they just want you to come in and deliver a good message because they're focused on their students or whoever it is that you're talking to or the business, right? Like they're not doing it for the clicks or the likes or like, so for me, it feels very pure. Like I get to, and then what I say is like, I will hang out after, I will take a couple of the students out to eat. Like, so then it really feels like there's an actual connection. I'm not just like flying in and flying out for some bullshit agreement that I'm not about.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So there'll be more of that. And then, you know, we get into the fall here in New York. Like I'm going to try and take some time in August and just chill out. I think this will be my last kind of interview for a little bit. And then, you know, we get into fall in New York here and it's like marathon season. You know, it's like we have 100 people that run the marathon and we raise a bunch of money. And so it's just, my body knows where we are right now, you know, like my body knows and my spirit knows we're kind of like heading into August and it's time to kind of reset and reboot.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How can the people support you? How can we stay connected?
Oh, man.
How can we support in other ways? Like what areas can everyone add value to you? Because you, when you are leading and doing on this mission that you are, I just know anyone listening would want to know how to add value. And you know, the biggest thing I think with having a podcast that's so heavy in like the entrepreneur space, so many people want to help, but then they don't know how.
Yeah. I mean, there's two ways I can answer that question. I can give you the stock answer, which is like releaserecovery.com. You can go follow me on social media, which is like at ZW Clark. You can DM me. We can connect. We can take a meet, like whatever it is, Release Recovery Foundation. Google it. It'll come up. They're like,
we'll link it all in the show notes
I'm not a ghost, you know, like you can definitely find me. The more complicated answer to that question is like how you support me and how you support this world that we're living in. It's just like, you know, I always kind of say like, you don't have to like everyone, but you have to love everyone. And that allows you the opportunity to have an open mind, especially when you're dealing with the stuff that I deal with on a daily basis, which is like people that are struggling with substance use disorder, people that are struggling with anxiety and depression. Like, trust me, they already feel bad enough. So you telling them how to do it or what they're supposed to do is not gonna help them. So what I would say is like how you really support me is like keep an open mind and love one another and, you know, just understand that, you know, with all the political shit going on right now, like I believe the biggest issue in our world is loneliness, you know, like loneliness. And so that's some more philosophical kind of like
that's a beautiful answer.
Yeah.
That's a mic drop right there.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here. And I hope I do these things, you know, because I've done a bunch of them. It helps one person. We did our job.
I'm going to link your podcast. When do you drop episodes and where? Zac Clark Show?
Yeah, Tuesdays I think we've been doing, but we're kind of just mixing it. Like we're just having fun with it.
But it is
Yeah,
so
Tuesday.
good.
Yeah,
So
thank
we will
you.
link that.
Thank you.
Podcasters, go over to Zac Clark Show. Thank you.